So I'm reading some suttas in a chapter called Samachita, the peaceful mind, in the Anguttara Nikaya. This is a small one first. It says, mendicants, bhikkhus, I will teach you the level of the bad person and the level of a good person. What is the level of a bad person? The bad person is ungrateful and thankless, for the wicked only know how to be ungrateful and thankless. And it is totally the level of a bad person to be ungrateful and thankless. The good person is grateful and thankful, for the virtuous only know how to be grateful and thankful. The good only know how to be grateful. But what is gratitude, you know? How is one truly grateful?
Oh, by being virtuous. So that's the important bit to recognize. Gratitude is not a matter of choice. Or I shall be grateful, or I shall not be grateful. Because often people think, oh, you should be great, makes yourself grateful. As the sutta says, if you're virtuous, gratefulness is the result of it, whether you want it or not. That's why he can only knows how to be grateful, a virtuous person.
He only knows how to be virtuous. Well,
because of the virtue, he can only be grateful. He cannot be ungrateful. Because it's gratefulness state of mind. You can say all you want, I really appreciate that, thank you very much, I'm so grateful, but not really have that state of mind. But that state of mind of gratefulness is the result of virtue. And consequently, state of mind of non-gratefulness is the result of lack of virtue.
By being non-virtuous, you cannot appreciate. You don't care about the gifts of others.
Well, you might care on that superficial level. Fundamentally, you are not in that frame of mind. Because that frame of mind can only be developed through virtue. So it's not a matter of choice to be grateful or not. Even if you never say you're grateful and never say you appreciate anything, if you're virtuous, you are grateful and you appreciate everything. Virtue will make you do so.
You are being careful.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
That's why you're virtuous. You are careful. You consider it. You consider things. So.
Yeah. And that's already that type of outlook that is that leads to gratefulness. So when people want to sometimes make a practice of, how they say, conscious gratitude or something, well, you just have to be virtuous and you'll be consciously grateful. But if you make a practice of conscious gratitude, I don't know, like fabricating and emulating and doing the great gratitude and gratefulness and constantly dwelling on it, but you're not virtuous, that's not gratefulness.
So it's not what you say.
It's not what you say. It's the what state of mind you have overall. Yeah, of course.
So a person gets a college fund, and they say thank you, Dad, for paying for my college. I really appreciate it. But all he does is party, doesn't study, doesn't.
Well, exactly. So he might and that's another thing. Like I think people would often genuinely conflate happiness, being pleased, with gratefulness. Or you made my wish come true, I'm so grateful. No, I'm just happy because I got what I want. That doesn't necessarily mean you're in a grateful state of mind. If you were virtuous, then you would be, because you would not be able to be in any other state of mind. That's what the sutta says. So yes, exactly. If you were grateful, then the value of that which made you happy will not be lost, obscured, forgotten about, dismissed, disrespected. Naturally, because through gratefulness, you value it. Oh, I'm so grateful, I finally got what I want, which is the college fund, so I'll take it seriously. And it will be effortless because you're in a grateful state of mind. But yes, if you dismiss it and then don't study and don't act, towards it, don't make the most of it, means, oh yeah, you were never grateful. You were just happy you got what you want, enjoy the ideas of it, but then practically you were doing the opposite things.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it comes down to the action. Grateful comes from the virtuous behavior. So if you act virtuously, practice sense restraint and guard other sense those, you will be grateful, even for a little thing. Because the value of it will not be obscured. The value of it will not be put second, and you put yourself first, and your animal needs first, or whatever else. They will all be maintained in the right order, so the gratefulness will remain.
So there's that, and the second sutta that follows this one is because I say that these two people cannot easily be repaid. What to mother and father? You would not have done enough to repay your mother and father, even if you were to carry your mother around on one shoulder and your father on the other. And if you lived like this for 100 years, and if you were anoint, massage, bathe them, and even if they were to defecate and urinate right there, even if you were to establish your mother and father as supreme rulers of this great earth, abounding in 7 treasures, you would still not have done enough to repay them. Why is that? Parents are very helpful to their children. They raise them, nurture them, and show them the world. But you have done enough, more than enough, to repay them if you encourage, settle, and ground unfaithful parents in faith, unethical parents in ethical conduct, stingy parents in generosity, or ignorant parents in wisdom.
And the common thread to all of that is basically it's that bigger perspectives. It's not just limited to this life. That's why it says, like, even if you were to establish them in the supreme rulers, even if you give them everything in this world and make them the rulers of this world, with all the 7 treasures of this world, that's not enough, because it's only this world. But if you establish them in generosity that pertains now to future rebirths, in ethical conduct that pertains in future rebirths, in right view that pertains to future rebirths, you will repay them more than enough. Because you've repaid not just for this life, but for the future. Because they would have missed out on that, because unethical person will not benefit in the lives to come because of their lacking of ethics. And same with virtue and others. So if you change that for them, you repay them now for eons to come, because you establish them in generosity. They will pertain. The results of that will pertain for a long time. So you repay them.
So you can set them up with a good lifestyle, with all the
but it's very limited.
It
stays just here, and that's it. And from that point of view, even if you give them everything in the world, technically you still can't repay them because they gave you life. But if you give them more than this, not just this world, but all the next lives, in that way you gave them future lives of a better kind, not being born in animal realm and so on.
You gave them future lives of a better kind. They gave you life.
Basically fixing their lack of virtue, fixing their lack of faith, making them behave properly.
Because I was also thinking about that, how to repay your parents for doing what they've done. Not all parents are
of course
are great individuals. But they still did.
That's how you repay them. So even repaying your own parents, even the debt to your parents, none of that needs to be personal. None of that needs to be on the level of attachment. But it's my parents, I must emotionally get involved with that relationship because I owe them. No, that's your worldliness speaking. I must forsake my training in virtue and everything else because I need to help my parents. No, that's your worldliness and lack of right view speaking. It can stay impersonal, and you can focus on basically teaching them, getting through to them, because you know them, because they are your parents, and establish them in proper behavior, in faith, in virtue. And if they do that, well, you gave them a chance. If they don't do it, well, you gave them a chance. You can't do it for them. You can't force them. So yes, don't dismiss it like, oh, I don't care. No, you do factually owe them. They gave you life. They as the sutta says, nurtured you and made everything else possible. So you owe them, but that does not mean this kind of, oh, I must, like that whole relationship with it must always stay on the level of attachment and this emotional stickiness and stuff like that. Not at all. They're also, from the samsara point of view, random individuals passing through that collided with and whatever else, and they'll carry on their own way. Beings are owners of their own actions, and that's the direction they'll be heading. No matter how many sons and daughters you had and how much they're helping you and so on, that's all bound with this world. So helping them, it's not on the level of indulging them emotionally. Oh, my mother will be upset if I'm not here. I must be here then, and forsake everything else that's important for the practice. No, you're not helping anyone. But if you're there to establish her in virtue, and that's it, that's the extent, yeah. Even if she's unhappy with you not being there, even if parents are unhappy with you leaving and so on. So you want to help them on that level that actually matters, not just that makes them feel good.
Yeah. So when I first read that, you can't repay them unless you set them up a stingy parent in generosity and so on. But you have to start with yourself. You can't.
Of course.
You
if
can't
you yourself is not virtue.
I'm gonna sort my parents. I teach them what generosity is while I'm still.
While you are not generous. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Not virtuous
exactly.
and so on. So you got to, and that's you. In a way, you can teach them by example.
Yeah, that's already. Well, yeah, exactly. So in that sense, you kind of accomplish two goals with one effort. Establish yourself in virtue and show the example that, to those who will kind of learn from it.
Because that's the only path of getting.
Yeah. And also that is a kind of prerequisite for any successful teaching. Like, when you might be teaching people and they might make sense of what you're saying, but if they look and see you do the opposite, they will dismiss what you said naturally. But if they look and see exactly what you're saying they should do, that you're already doing it and living it, then okay, they can't argue with it. They can't dismiss it. So doing it yourself, establishing yourself and all of that, it is kind of a prerequisite. To be highly unlikely and unvirtuous, you have even no concept of virtue or behavior, and somehow that you would value establishing your own parents in virtue and behavior when you yourself don't value it for yourself. And it's even more unlikely that you will not that you will be successful while you yourself completely have no concept of virtue, ethical conduct, establish parents in that through just teaching them, and then they would take it on while you're doing completely the opposite. There's absolutely no basis for any growth there. Yeah. So you would have to always start with yourself.
And that's how to be truly grateful to your parents.
It's not lose perspective in regard to where the value and where the importance is, and that can only come out of gratefulness, which can only come out of your own virtue. So if you're virtuous and practice the sense restraint and guarding of the sense doors in the right way, like the way of the training, not on the way of the external duty, as you often say, the framework of gratitude is there. It's the result of it, which means the framework of non-obscuring where the problem, where the issue is for a parent, for others and so on, that will be clearer. Because as I said, if you are not clear with yourself, that's when people start acting out of their emotional states, not out of recognition of what's truly beneficial for parents or for me or for both. Kusala literally means beneficial. Akusala, unbeneficial. And for that you need perspective. But usually people's perspective is very limited, and beneficial is that which is pleasing, and unbeneficial is that which is displeasing. And that's kind of the criteria of how I feel. So it comes down to the same, to whether you're engaging with others, it's always the same criteria. Unless you have developed virtue, sense restraint, practice properly, develop that perspective of gratitude and so on, then you would exactly see. So it's not beneficial to indulge in, I'll just make my parents feel good, but I won't make any effort because they always get upset when I start talking about a virtue. Well, no, see, now you're just enable them in their feelings, and you kind of sacrifice your own perspective and reason just so they feel good and you feel good and don't feel bothered. And that's not beneficial for anyone. But yeah, if you maybe do that so that you can then talk about a virtue, not preach to them or something like, but try to get the message through genuinely, like to somebody you would want to help and save. Even they're unaware they're dying of this illness and they could fix it. They don't know how. They don't even know that they're ill. So yeah, it's going to be some hassle and work and unpleasantness getting, that message across. But if you succeeded, yeah, you repay them for eons to come, because they were now virtuous because they actually understood the point of it. They're ethical because they understood the point of it, and that's it. You're done. Even if they suffer on account of your absence for the rest of their life, it's nothing, absolutely nothing in comparison to what you did for them.
Or the meaning that you are for them, that.
Well, the perspective that they gained through that,
Yeah.
so that you now stand for, basically. Sure.